Good morning, leaders. Very asubuhi. I'm happy to be with you once again. I'm not a stranger to this forum, and I've always enjoyed to come and share ideas with you. And like I've always said, it is not because I have a monopoly of ideas, the sharing thoughts and ideas that can be able to make our work better and easier. I am a teacher, you didn't mention that. I started my career teaching about 110 kilometers from here in a place called Kaponeni for Naziro, Kaponeni Secondary School. That was back in 1994 when we didn't even have a staff room or even a toilet. We used to, it's a long story, but I enjoyed my time there, and that is where I started my career. And then proceeded as been introduced. So it's always a pleasure to be back here and also to interact with you as my colleagues. I've been given a topic to have a conversation with you, and this is financial sustainability as a core risk management strategy. And I'll pick from where Fred left, because these two topics are joined in the hip. And he said something very important, which I would like to start with. This is not moving, my friend. And he said something very, very important: foresight. One of the biggest responsibilities of leadership is foresight. In fact, the reason why your members trusted you with that position is they believe that you have better foresight than them, that you can be able to see farther than them. And foresight is one of your biggest responsibilities. And foresight here to mean that seeing beyond the 5 years, you're not talking about 30 or 40 years. Because if you're to be asked individually, what is your future? What is the future? What is the vision that you have for the Sacco that you represent here in the next 20, 30, 40 years? And that is how our progressive countries and economies are planning. They are looking at institutions, at organizations, at economies beyond 20 years. 20 years, 30 years, foresight. Being able to see what other people may not be able to see, but you reflect and you can project, and you can say, this is the future that I see for my Sacco. But then even as you see that future, then you see what are the most likely events or issues that may prevent my Sacco from achieving that vision that I have seen. And therefore, what is it that I need to do about it now? Now, there are two dangers that usually inhibit foresight. Two dangers for leaders that will inhibit foresight. One of them is what I may call paralysis of oversight over foresight. That is, you concentrating on oversight, which is okay, but you over-concentrate on the oversight, you forget about the oversight. Concentrating on the day-to-day, issues, you forget about giving a projection of the future. And what usually happens is that you forget very small things, and very small things that are happening right across your face. But you're concentrating on the routine, the regular issues. And that's what usually happens when an unexpected event, an anticipated event comes. Then they may destroy the very organization that you've been leading. The other thing which is related to that is doing the same thing in the same ways, and possibly expecting different results. And you know that is usually called what? When you do the same thing and expect different things, it's called what? It's called madness. When you do the same thing and expect different results, it has been called madness by one of the intellectuals. And those are usually the traps that as a leader you may get into, and you forget to mitigate or to foresight for your organization. And you see, the monkeys could be aboard. The things, you have found things being done in that way, but you never question why they are being done that way. If you are asked, utasema mimi nilikuta ikifanywa namna hii, namna hiyo, hivyo ndivyo tunafanyaga mambo hapa. A serious threat to financial sustainability and growth of an organization. Because if you do things the same way the chairman of 10 years or 15 years was doing, he was right or she was right during her time. But the circumstances, if you have to think about 15 years, from now 15 years is a long short time, depending on how you look at it. 15 years, Mr. Chairman, it's just the other day. It is 2015. It is 2010. 2010. Now 2010, for most of us, we were still around, we were still teaching, we were still working. But look at the shift, the change from 2015 or 2010 to now. The shift is humongous, the change. So if we are doing things that used to happen in 2010, and you're still insisting on doing them now, you are a serious risk to the organization. In fact, you are the first risk. You are the biggest risk. Even as you go to discuss, you are the most serious or the most serious risk. And you know, when you talk about resistance to change, we usually talk about resistance to change as if we're referring to other people. But you will be surprised at how a resistor of change you are. In fact, in your conversations in the boardroom, you can even trap people who never want to hear anything about changing anything. They want the status quo. It is important to be clear today here in this conference that you are the biggest threat, you are the biggest risk if you insist in doing things in the same way. And there are usually very many excuses of insisting on doing things in the same manner. You usually say, unajua mimi nimekuwa kwa hii sako miaka ngapi? Wewe umekuja juzi. Unajua mimi nimekuwa kwa miaka kwa miaka. Now, the moment you say that, wewe ni risk. In fact, you should be asking that other person who is coming in, what is it that you can tell us? What is it new that you can be able to tell us? In one of the places that I did some work in, you'll be told when you want to bring in change, you are told that I have eaten more salt than you have eaten githeri. Umekuja juzi, mimi nimekula hapa, nimekula chumvi mingi kushinda ile githeri umekula. So ukikula githeri unaweka chumvi kidogo. So unaona hata mtu akwambia amekula chumvi mingi kushinda ile githeri umekula. Sinikwambia unyamaze. So we are saying, when you say I have been here for so many years, and this is the way that you have always done things, then no, you are the risk to financial sustainability. Because things are changing. Then penetration of individual payroll partners. Say the various partners that quite a number of us have looked at the bonds. What is the percentage penetration? And so are some of the metrics that you can use. So the first thing to pay attention to, we have said, is taking balanced membership. Because when you attain balanced membership, then you're assured of the future. You're assured of sustainability into the future. The second area to pay attention is digital implementation. And digital implementation here is so that we can improve the experience of our members. We can be able to mitigate the cybersecurity that Fred spoke about, to increase efficiency, and to be a good experience to all our stakeholders. So it means that our suppliers, our members, our employees, anybody who interacts with our Sacco should have a good experience because of the digital implementation. And one of the things to do is that it should be very clear. It should be very clear to you as a Sacco the direction that you are headed with the digital strategy. Not just knee-jerk. Sometimes you hear of, how you shall have a strategy of your own. That is the direction that you want to take, and then assessing the core system, and then determine the functionality, and then training the senior team in terms of project management. Digital is very good, but it is also equally dangerous, because we have some youngsters who are able to play around with those systems, and they can be extremely disastrous. Big financial institutions, most of the time they choose to keep quiet. But you see, this digital is not something that we can run away from. So you must make sure that you are very clear the direction that you want to go, and then we have people who are trained to be able to take us there. And that is not an option. And you see, it is not limited to our own experiences. One of the challenges that you can have as a leader is when you are limited with your own experience. Progress of the institution is limited to your own experiences. Foresight requires open-mindedness. It requires open-mindedness, and there are even things that you'll be told that you never knew, or you could have never conceptualized. That's why you are a leader. So with the digital space, there are going to be a lot of open-mindedness, because in the absence of adopting the digital strategy and the digitalization, then we are bound to fail, and our sustainability will definitely be threatened. So what are then some of the things that how can you measure that? Measure that to know whether you're making progress. You ask yourself, what percentage of members are registered to access services online? If, for example, you are to ask that question, how many? In your Sacco, what percentage is online registered? What percentage? Anybody who would want to say, to give a good figure, kama here as 96%, Utahuzi. Anybody who has a proud figure that you can want to share? Hey, Jamani. Percentage of members registered for access. Or you haven't measured, or you don't do. It is important to be able to know then the proportion of the whole application made by online. When you measure the proportion, you know the direction that you're going to. You know whether you're going backwards or you're going forwards. Then the social media presence, because social media does not allow a vacuum. If you don't tell your story, other people will tell. And they may tell depending on the experience that they had with you. So we attract that generation, the Gen Z, and you can see the Gen Zs, they don't take the way we have brought them up, because we are the ones who have brought them up. They are not afraid of asking. You know, for us, we are afraid of asking. We are afraid of commenting. You see, like that question I've asked, what percentage? If it was a Gen Z, ungekuwa kama 10. Nasema yetu ni 20% ama 95%. Lakini you see, for most of us here, tumezoea for them it is not. So we have to be able to be in that space, so that they don't destroy our reputation. And you see, like Safaricom, and I use Safaricom because it is one of the biggest corporate. For them, they are there full time. They respond to issues immediately. They don't wait. So akisema sijui kwetu Sacco loan zangu wengine ni mtu mmoja amekasirika, and they will only give a partial information. If that person is unresponded to, then that is the reputation that is there. Or mental Sacco or mwalimu or any other. So social media presence is critical. It is part of the digital implementation. It becomes part of the agenda of the board. Then of course there is the effective governance, skills development and risk management. You know, we have to agree. Most of us, our training, pedagogy, that's our basic training. So here, like myself, initially, we are teachers. One of the things that you have to be is open-minded to learn things that you do not know. And there are many that you do not know. It is good to admit that. You know, sometimes as a leader, you may get the problem of once you are put in a position of power, then you assume you have been put in that position because you know everything. You don't know everything. In fact, you will be put there to start learning. So the issue of accountability, transparency, responsiveness, consensus-oriented, participatory, inclusive, and participatory here, you know, dominance. Then inclusion, the rule of law. I'm going to talk about participatory here. One of the dangers of governance is what we call the hard mentality. Hard. H-E-R-D. You know, you may work as a board for a long time, and then you start getting that feeling of being infallible. Nothing can happen once. And possibly, they are saying, that is possibly what would have happened with something like Bristol. You've been in it, we are there, so there's nothing that can happen to us. We have been in this for so long. It is important to have participatory inclusion such that you have an open mind. And one of the things that you can do this is one, aligning the organizational culture, the strategy, and the brand. Culture, organizational culture is very important. In fact, they say culture eats strategy for breakfast. You may have a very good strategy. You pay a very good consultant to help you come up with a good strategy. But culture will be what will happen. Strategy is the intention. Culture is what actually happens. I consult for an organizational culture, and I have done quite some work with the Malibu National, the chairman will confirm, trying to align people with the strategy so that people can think in the same way as you have in the strategy, and they can project themselves in that way. Because you may have a very good strategy, but the way people behave is quite different from the intention. And you see, when a fish rots, when a zero, because some people here may not have a lot of interaction with fishes. When a fish rots, inaanzaga wapi? When a fish rots, it starts from the head. Now the head of the SACCOs represented here, the heads are here. Sisi ndizo vichwa za hizo SACCO. So we start with our own culture. What we say, what we tell each other, and what then we tell the staff, and how we behave and act. Because the people that we lead, they are very intelligent people also. So the way that you behave, they will pick it up, and it is the same way that they are going to. So aligning the culture with the strategy and the brand is very important. Right from the way people dress, the way they talk to the customers, the way they relate with each other, and the way that they relate with you. I spoke about economic and data analysts, very important. Then the conduct of board skills and board evaluations. How many of us have conducted board evaluations? How many of us have conducted board evaluations? Na nyinyi mnajua frustrate. Na nyinyi ni walimu na mna frustrate kwa lugha namna hii. Ukiuliza swali, hebu kuna mtu anajibu. Okay, how many have not? How many have not conducted board evaluations? Sasa jameni, ni wangapi? Ni wangapi ambao how many have conducted board evaluations? Conduct board evaluations. Fantastic. So the others do not. Don't be afraid of feedback. When you conduct board evaluation, you get feedback. 360 degrees. 360 degrees, you are told about yourself by people below you, the CEO and maybe the top executive, and your colleagues. Or even if you put it at a pure board evaluation, your colleagues. And that is how you grow, even as an individual. Because when an evaluation is done about you, you'll get some very nice things said about you that you'll even wonder whether you are the one. But you'll also be told those other things ambazo hutataka kusikia. Utaambiwa unaongeaga sana kwa board. Ama wewe unafikiriaga wewe peke yako ndio unajua. Ama uko na madhara, and it makes you a better person. And I can assure you, it is for the financial sustainability of your institution. Because if you refuse feedback, you have no moral authority of giving anybody feedback. Is it not true, my good sir? If you refuse feedback yourself, you have no moral authority of giving anybody feedback. So, board evaluation is also the skills to be able to, and you see, when you talk about the board evaluation, you don't need to get not very good feedback. You're already there, and you are put there by people who have trust in you. So it is an opportunity to make yourself better for the sake of the Sacco that you've been entrusted with. Then policy frameworks and proactive reviews. You know, policy, when you say about doing things in the same way that you have been doing. I read a story, and I also wrote about it in one of my articles. I used to write articles in the Daily Nation. And I read a story about a brewery, a consultant who was retained to help a brewery in 1947 in the UK to help them improve their processes. So he went into the organization and was looking at the processes, what is it that can be able to be made better. And one of the things was very interesting. He realized that the distribution, when they are distributing the beer to their customers, they would deliver on Mondays to the farthest customer. Then on Tuesday, the nearer. Then on Wednesday, nearer. Thursday, such that by Friday is when they will deliver to the nearest customers. So the nearest customer had to wait until Friday before they could be delivered to. So he asked many people, why in the organization, why is it that you do this? This is the way that it has always been done. And then he got to one of the highest employees, akamwambia, oh, when we designed this system, we used to use horses to deliver. So the horses, when they are rested, very well rested, weekend, they can be able to deliver the farthest on Monday. Zinachoka Tuesday, zinachoka Wednesday, Sunday, Friday wakati zimechoka kabisa, zina deliver in the nearest. Sasa akauliza, lakini sasa tunatumia magari. What is the logic? Akasema hakuna mtu ambaye anauliza hiyo swali. Nobody has ever asked. And you see, you could be presiding over the same thing. Policy iliwekwa na the people who were there in 2015 because of the circumstances then. Lakini wewe umekuja na ni chairman ama ni secretary, unataka kuuliza swali. So wewe unataka tufanye vile ambavyo. Now what will happen is that you frustrate your customers, you frustrate your vendors, you frustrate employees, you frustrate very many things. And what will happen then is that the sustainability is threatened because there are people who leave, good employees who leave because of those awkward, ancient policies, good vendors who leave, good stakeholders who leave the organization because of the frustration of those kind of policies. So proactive review of policies. We're having a framework, we review every so often. I mentioned about paralysis of foresight, oversight. There'll be the time, it is good to split the time, your time, in terms of time to foresight and time to oversight. Foresight is when you reflect and you ask yourself, where do we see this, our Sacco, in so many years? And you know, in each one of these Saccos here, there is usually not one person. There is usually not one person or two people that are usually spoken about in that Sacco. Wanasema mama fulani ama mzee fulani wakati hii Sacco ilianza. Kama tuseme kama ni hapa Mombasa, zero. Like when I was teaching here, I had to travel all the way to Nairobi to get a form, and then come get somebody to sign for me, and then travel all the way back to Nairobi because I was a member of Walimu Sacco. And possibly somebody had the foresight to say, now this one cannot, it's not enough. It is that person. Kuna mtu mmoja in your Sacco, sijui yeye ni bwana Mungu. Kuna yule mtu kama ni wewe wanasema juu yako. Pengine wewe anasema hii Sacco bwana Mungu. There is not one person, that significant contributor who challenges the status quo. So if you want to ask yourself, once you leave, can they talk about you? Because that's a legacy. Can they talk about you in terms of your foresight? And can we be left to say, Mr. So-and-so used to tell us, or Madam So-and-so used to tell us about this Sacco. Let's not let him down or let her down. So, foresight and oversight, and then succession planning. Succession planning, we are all in transit. We are all in transit. Sometimes we may refuse, but the fact is that we are all in transit. Prepare other people who can be able to take up from you and they pursue the same ideals that we have. One of the challenges, one of the frustrations of our country and Africa is usually lack of foresight and poor succession planning. We talk about Vision 2030. Vision 2030, if you look at Singapore, you cannot develop a country within 10 years. You can't develop a country within 5 years. You can only develop a country when you have a long-term, foresight, 20, 30, 40 years. And that is what even progressive economies are talking about now. So even our Sacco, we have to not only think about the strategic plan, 5, 10, but they're able to be the ideal 20, 30 years from now, where we see that Sacco that we've been entrusted with. And you see one of the dangers, in as far as the governance is concerned, sisi Sacco. Shida moja ile tunakuwa nayo as far as governance is concerned, ni kama haka kakijana. Sticking to your lane. Sio kijana wa white anaacha baluni zake hajakanyanga. Anaenda kukanyanga za wenyewe. Ndio.
One house.
Kila mtu alikuwa kanyanga zake. Sticking to your lane. Kama wewe ni chairman, kuwa chairman, wewe si CEO, si ndio? Kama unataka kuwa CEO, kuwa CEO, waache kuwa chairman, si ndio? Kama wewe ni board member, you stick to your what? You stick to your lane. Kwa sababu hapa ndio huwa governance inaleta shida. Tunakanyanga. Sticking to your lane. Ndio vizuri kuuliza swali kusema kitu. Unajiuliza kama wewe ni White House. Umeacha baluni zako, unaenda kukanyanga za wenyewe. So, if the governance is effective, you see what's the skills audits undertaken, the board of directors evaluation, and the governance effectiveness and the board governance effectiveness. And how effective are you as a board? The other area to pay attention to is optimizing of the capital position here. We're talking about things like adequate capital cover. Of course, this is regulated, and you are reminded every so often by SACCO. Liquidity management, credit management, and the credit management here, the risk of the portfolio at risk, management of that, and then fundraising. And fundraising, this is working with partners to expand the capital. And some of the things that one can be able, Sacco can be able to do is, having a comprehensive plan that incorporates the income projection, the proposed internal investment, expected external investment flows, fundraising, engagement with external support to ensure that you have adequate funding. So the key indicators, this one I may not spend a lot of time because it's a SACCO-driven initiative. But then, for us to achieve the sustainability that is desirable, we have to go beyond regulation. When you just a minimalist, minimalist. Sijui kama mnafanyaga kufanya kazi na mtu, ama ushakuandika mtu, wanamuoge minimalist. Yeye anafanyaga just the bare minimum. Akifanya ni kama huruba. Akifika tu hapo, hawezi move zaidi ya hapo. We also should not make our Sacco hurubaros, that we are minimalist. Once we meet the regulatory, we should seek to go beyond the minimum, because the minimum are usually for survival. But if it is to thrive and grow, then we have to exceed the whole, we have to exceed the minimum. And then, finally, on this is proactive consolidation and collaboration. Collaboration is in the DNA of the Sacco. What is it that we can be able to do together? Like this initiative, the KETSA. So this initiative, how is it that we can be able to leverage on this initiative to manage our costs? What are the things that we can centralize, for example, under this association? Some of the operational issues that we're able to reduce cost, what can be some of the shared services, etc. Because that is in the DNA of some collaboration as much as is possible. But here it is important to formulate a long-term strategy, then get the buy-in of the various support groups, because it will be important to get the buy-in. But collaboration is important. Collaboration is important in order to reduce some of the cost, in order to get some of the economies of scale. It is a good approach if you're to be able to attain financial sustainability. Finally, there is a trend, a current trend that we also need to think about and embrace. The trend about what you're calling sustainable finance trend. And sustainable finance trend is because corporates are talking about not just profits, they're talking about the society, they're talking about the environment, they're talking about governance. So there are some opportunities that are there that can be taken advantage of. I know for the people who say we have always done things this way, they say that the regulator will not allow. But the truth of the matter is that throughout history and throughout the world, the regulations follow innovation. It is not innovation following regulations. You innovate, then once you innovate, the regulations then follow. So you cannot always be hiding behind saying that the regulator will not allow, the regulator will not approve. We innovate, then once you innovate, the regulations will follow through. It's like Apple. Apple they have issued what they are called the green bond. They have raised money under the promise of that money will be used for projects on renewable energy and increasing their efficiency and also carbon neutral initiatives. We can partner with some of those initiatives to provide our members with funds that will be used for projects that are green related, that are renewable energy related. And they are partners. There are many funders who are willing to go alongside that. And still, it's not CSR. They are still making profits for their stakeholders. But even as they are making profit for their stakeholders, they are ensuring that the environment is sustainable. I mean that even our members, we can have loans that are meant to come up with initiatives on carbon credit, renewable energy, etc. Then there is a Unilever also with reducing water consumption, emissions, etc. We want to say in our offices, in our headquarters, how much renewable energy are we using? We have solar in our offices so that we reduce on the cost of electricity. We reduce on the cost on some of the costs that we otherwise incur, including even harvesting water, and then spreading out that to our members with with the appropriate funding. The HSBC, one of the biggest funds in the world, it has pledged billions of dollars towards again the same kind of initiative. It's a loan, yes, and it is still making sense to their stakeholders, but then it is focusing on the area of renewable energy, green initiative, etc. with the electric vehicles. So these are new areas that are coming in, and they will in the next 15 years, we spoke about foresight. In the next 10, 15 years, this will be seriously entrenched. They will be the norm. So, ndio utakuwa kama yule gada. Nakumbuka yule gada alienda kuuliza after retirement, ulikuwa unasoma nini? You have heard about it. Sasa wakati umeretire, unasema na unajua nisikia hiyo kitu. Lakini unajua hatukufikiria sana juu yake. Lakini tulisikia hiyo kitu. Usikue mtu wa kusikia hiyo kitu. Lakini hukufuatilia hiyo kitu. You just gather information, you dedicate yourself on that.